Are you thinking about buying or selling a home, or just want to keep up with the Twin Cities' latest market news, stats, and trends? Come hang out with us for a little while. Hi, I'm Kirk Duckwall, and joining me today, Jeff Schemmel from Upside Property Sales, as well as Chad Priebe. As always, thank you for coming in. Chad. I'm kind of excited for today's show because, I know a little bit. I've dealt with, some duplex stuff here and there and some fourplex back in the day. Those are getting a little spendy that I've seen around here, but want to get a deep dive from somebody who really does it as a primary part of your business, and you do some commercial as well, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
very cool. Starting to dabble in that this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious what you're seeing out there. Talk about what you've seen with the effects in the marketplace with prices in investing and commercial properties, as well as the impacts with interest rates. Now, a lot of news with interest rates because they've been moving down a bit. Kind of jumping into that, the bond market, you and I were just talking about this before we got into the studio.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So the month of November was the best month in 40 years. We saw over a 300 basis point increase in the market, and we've saw a pretty substantial
interest rates are down
right?
almost 1.1% from where they were a month ago.
Yeah, if not more. There were some lenders posting 8.5% interest on a 30. So
what are we seeing today?
In the low 7s, 7 1/8, depending on credit, property type, down payment. But there's a lot more opportunity today. I like what's playing out.
Yeah, we've seen that mortgage applications up 4 weeks in a row. I'm waiting for the data to come out tomorrow, see if it goes 5. But, that's really setting it up. I personally have noticed an uptick in activity, a lot more buyers reaching out with the rates going down. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I always look for an opportunity to say, hey, rates have gone down. Do you want to talk again?
Right. Yeah, I noticed too. Just numbers wise, I saw I've had 9 applications this week so far, right? And that's huge compared to previous weeks where you'd get 1 or 2 a week. But the news is out, right? As we talk, as we meet with our clients, they talk to their friends and family. They're learning about the market. So this is an opportunity that we haven't seen in many years. So
I think, if you're a buyer who's maybe disengaged a little bit from the marketplace the last few months, it might be worthwhile to check back in, get some pricing opinions out there. So rates around 7 1/8. This has definitely helped the showings per listing piece, and that's a key factor that I really like to track because it's that velocity in the marketplace,
Right.
So I'm looking at total number of showings. I'm looking at the showings per listing. I'm looking at that inventory of homes, and things are just really lining up quite well. And it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing this uptick in activity. So we were at a 2.55. So that's basically the average house, so priced between $250,000 to $500,000 in the Twin Cities area, was getting 2.55 showings per week, right?
Okay.
That moved in 1 week up to 2.93. Now we know the things with averages, right? Is you'll have one part of the market that's just really not getting much at all, and another part of the market that is just, it's a higher pace. It's the newer listing. It's the shinier object out there, right? And so a lot of that is going to be experienced on the newer listings, but even some of the older ones, we're seeing that uptick. And what I mean by that is how long they've been on market.
Yeah, and I've noticed you've gotten a couple under contract. When we talk about affordability, under $200,000 on a single family. And that to me is just, it's showing more opportunity for people, less competition in the market, right? Not multiple offers like we've seen before. So if you are that buyer that has been really struggling with affordability, I like Kirk said, reach out to a professional and talk about the market. I think it's worth your time.
Well, and another option is the buying a duplex or buying something, renting some rooms or whatever it might be.
Yeah, if you're an investor now, you can have a heyday.
Yeah.
Look at that days on market meter and watch it tick up and then come in, right? Yeah. I look for opportunities and sub 300, 2 weeks on market. I'll go do a showing, maybe take a video for a client, talk about the value add opportunities in that listing on top of the fact that, as a buyer with the 2 weeks on market, you may have a little more leverage.
Right.
Yep.
Get a little lower price and sweeten that deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when the market gets, hot in the springtime, and by spring, as always, I mean January, February, March,
Right.
that I talk about looking at Monday houses. And what I mean by that is the house that's still there on Monday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the opportunity starts as far as this negotiation. I actually had a client where it was, I showed him a house, and I'm like, this is a pretty darn good house, I think we have an opportunity here, and we made an offer, and it ended up going into multiple offers. Of course, after 25, 30 days on market, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rates came down, so then it got competitive.
Yep.
But I was explicitly told by the agent that my offer was not the highest. It's how I structured the other pieces that made it attractive. The shorter closing, which we were able to do,
Right.
and doing an inspection guarantee, not waiving an inspection, but setting a cap on repairs, right? Stuff
Right.
like
I like
that.
that.
So
Versus a traditional pass-fail.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it can be more attractive.
Yeah, because most buyers don't want to nitpick a seller, right? I mean, most. and sellers don't want to be nitpicked, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really genius way to present an offer.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't always have to be the highest. Look for those opportunities, structure correctly. Yeah, and I flat out said, if you're not going to make a stab at this, I'm going to pass it along to some investors because I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
All right. So looking at some other stats out there, and so this is basically week of Thanksgiving, market information, new listings down. No big surprise there for that period of time. Dropped from 948 down to 490. That did kind of noticing the trend picking back up. So I think when we get the next data set out, we'll see the new listings back up from that 490 in 1 week. Pending sales dropping as well, 729 down to 540. The one that most interests me is that inventory of homes and where that is going. So it was at 8,605, now down to 8,323. So definitely off of our peak where we were into the 9,000s. It's not going to be too much longer, and we're going to be breaking down to 7 and
Right.
6, right? And we'll see where this goes. But that will keep heating up the marketplace. It's that seasonality that we see out there.
Right.
So looking at the market meter right now, it is at a 3.49, which is up. We were down to the 3.06, right? Now, this is not a huge surprise. I've been saying for a few weeks that, it looked like we might be bottoming. And these things started to line up that was saying that. So, I think by next week we'll know for sure if we truly have come up off that bottom. But that was a big movement in the market meter. Another half a point up, we're out of buyer's market and back into stable market, right? Just that little change there. And that's all that inventory coming in. So I know we were watching the bond market, talking about that today, and that might bring rates down 30-year below that 7 mark, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the 10-year Treasury yield go below 4.2 today.
So
that's a huge indicator that, and the bond market's forward-looking, right? So
we're actually going to have to jump to a commercial
No problem.
here real quick. I forgot to mention TwinCitiesRealEstateShow.com for all of our free publications. We're going to take a quick break and get into investment properties with Jeff. Kirk Duckwall here again with the Twin Cities Real Estate Show. Our local sponsors are BRIX Real Estate, Network Title, Eric Bloomstrand and Chad Priebe with Bell Bank Mortgage, and James Tufson with the Preserve Group.
When shopping for a mortgage, there is a formula to get the best rate. With the market today, knowing this formula is more important than ever. My name is Chad Priebe with Bell Bank Mortgage. I have over 20 years experience in the mortgage industry and in home buying education. I'd like to share this useful tool with you to help you shop for your mortgage. You can find me at chadpriebe.com or call me at 651-207-9274.
Hello, my name is James Topson with the Preserve Group. Anyone can sell you insurance. However, is it going to be the insurance you need? When life surprises pop up, you want the right coverage. When it comes time to find or renew your policy, give me a call. I would love to review your existing policy and show you what I can do for you. You can email me at james@mypreservegroup.com or give me a call at 651-728-4334.
Not every title company is the same. There are many people involved with each real estate transaction, and all of them need to be in the loop or a closing may get delayed. This is why the people at Network Title strive to provide swift scheduling and communication between the buyers, sellers, agents, and lenders. We know moving can be stressful, however, your closing does not need to be. Check us out online at network-title.com.
People always ask realtors, what is your commission? But what they should be asking is, what is your rate of return? Commissions only vary by a couple of percent from agent to agent. However, the price per square foot you get just based on their experience and the quality of marketing they use can vary by 10% or more. At BRIX Real Estate, our agents use the right marketing and have the experience to get you top dollar for your house. See what we can do for you at BRIXTwinCities.com. Welcome back to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show. Today, got Jeff Schemmel, Upside Property Sales, and going to kind of talk about something we don't bring up a whole lot, and that's investment properties, commercial properties, apartments a little bit. I mean, one of the things that I've kind of pulled back almost for a few years, it just seemed like there wasn't opportunity there, or I wasn't seeing the opportunity there that was with it, especially with where interest rates had started to go.
Thanks for having me, Kirk.
Yeah.
I think that what you just said is a lot of people's fear, right? When they take the first look at the market. But I think the first question to ask yourself, and the same question I ask a lot of clients that I work with for the first time, is what are your goals, right? Are you hard on the cash flow? Are you active or passive? And especially for someone who's new to owner-occupant investing, what I call house hacking.
Yes.
I put it as Craig Kurlop did in his book, The House Hacking Strategy. Are you on the profit end of the spectrum, where you might be putting a curtain around your dining room and living in there and sleeping on a couch and renting out all your rooms? Or are you on the comfort end, where you have your own nice unit and you might rent a accessory dwelling unit in the basement or the garage, or you might have one side of a duplex and rent the other side, much more comfortable, right? Yep. One, you can get paid to live in your house. The other, you might reduce your cost of living significantly, but you're a little more comfortable. But all boils down to, what are you looking for in your investment opportunity, right? And I advise appropriately.
Yeah, I think that's great to address the goals piece, because sometimes I just in my head go to a certain spot, right? And that might not always be where somebody is looking to go. And there's so many different ways to do it. You know, I used to think like minimal down, as many properties as you can own, and cash flow, right? And like that. I've started to think, hey, owning properties cash outright, it's not a bad way to go.
No,
you're pretty well protected against market fluctuations.
Right.
Well, clients ask me all the time, Jeff, if this is great, why don't you buy it? And I think, valid question. Anyone might ask that pretty innocently, but the fact is, my goals aren't the same as yours. And that's why I always start with that, because someone might want to be hands-on. Someone might want to say, I don't want to live in my property, or I don't want to be a landlord. Fact is, I'm one of those weirdos who really loves to be a landlord. I love to take care of my tenants, and I love to take care of my property. And while I do have a special,
so you're not a slumlord, is what you're saying.
I closed on my duplex almost 3 years to the day from today, and I not even hours later got called a slumlord.
Oh, geez.
You can't please everybody.
You don't expect it, but I get it. There are people out there that have that impression, right? It's okay.
Yep.
But the fact is, my strategy to occupy one side of a duplex and rent out the other is a little more active.
Yeah.
I'm there in front of my property, in front of my tenants all the time, and
Right.
my goal is cost of living reduction, and buying properties with lower investment up front to increase my ROI over the long term, and a little double dipping with improving the property at the same time. And I think that's an attractive strategy for any person of my generation. You might be a millennial faced with mountains of student loan debt, you pressure from your parents to have kids, you got to have a car to get to work, and you got all these pressures in your life. And now more than ever, cost of living reduction is really appealing, and it's less about the cash flow. That comes later, right? We make our money while we wait in investing in real estate, but house hacking can be a really good hands-on way to learn the lessons up front, how to be a property manager, how to manage a tenant and communicate accordingly, and collecting your first rent check is pretty life-changing too. So
I bet. Yeah,
it's a good starting point.
Well, and it's honestly the route I wish I've gone. I did end up accidentally being a landlord because my goal was to build and flip a house, right? Market in 2007, 2008 didn't allow for that.
Yeah.
And so
I
did learn some things. I guess I look back and I had 3 investment properties. And I look back and go, wow, had I actually held all 3 and rented them, I would have been fine, right? And I would still have all 3. Yeah.
They might be free and clear.
Well, getting there,
Maybe,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. And I think, the fast money in flipping, I mean, it can be done. Don't get me wrong. I see it.
Yeah.
Now, I see a lot of people fail at it, but I think that if something on paper makes sense as a rental property, you have something good there.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
It takes time. But
yeah, cash flow is sort of it's thrown around a lot, and it can have people wide-eyed and making rash decisions and thinking they're going to get that right away. But the truth is, we're playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're buying a duplex, really anywhere in the metro right now, it's unlikely to pencil on paper in cash flow. Most of the time, as an owner, you're paying the water. Sometimes you're even paying the gas, right? And trash, recycling, things like that.
But you're subsidizing your mortgage.
Yeah. And then, I would say if I'm just going to talk about the average duplex, it's $375,000. It's 4 beds, 2 baths, split evenly in an up-down orientation. The building's 100 years old.
Yep.
Electric is split, gas is split, water, sewer is not. So the deal analysis on a duplex is very simple. It's it's not this complicated, huge deal analysis spreadsheet that you have to make or find online. It's really simple. You're paying a mortgage the same as you would with any other property. Someone else is just, as you say, subsidizing part of it. You still have cost left over at the end of the day, but you're not buying your landlord a property anymore. You're buying yourself your next property.
It's huge.
And that's the big thing about house hacking. Now, if you're that person who really wants cash flow, a small apartment building, 6 to 8 units might be a little more attractive on something like DSCR lending, right? That's not the only option, but if you want cash flow and you want to be a little more passive, you have a much better chance with a commercial building.
I know I've helped clients with this, and that's the single family properties.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Right. You buy it, you live in it for a little while, and then you turn around and rent it if you get the right place. I mean, we're talking about properties at $150K. It's pretty easy to make those cash flow these days.
Right. Now, Jeff, I heard you say something that was appealing to me. You had mentioned that you're looking for something now with a smaller investment up front, right? Like down payment. Have you seen an uptick in interest with this duplex with the new changes in the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac arena with the 5% minimum down payment?
Yeah, especially among the young professionals who they got great jobs right out the gate, but they didn't quite hit that income threshold to use the 5% option before.
So big.
And so now that door is open so that they can actually take advantage of using that 5% down right now, even getting their closing costs paid in an environment like this, right?
Yes, sir.
Less people are buying. Buyers tend to have a little more leverage, especially if you're someone looking to add a little value to the property and you're willing to live in that for at least a year.
Okay.
The 5% down option is excellent that you mentioned. And then later, maybe your partner, say if you have a significant other you're going into this with, put one person's name on the loan, and then next time around the spouse buys it, and then you come back and use your FHA, and all this is a reason to have a really good conversation with a great lender.
Absolutely.
Front.
Yep. And that is a more common conversation today than it was 6 months ago. Because, again, I talk about opportunity a lot, and like you're saying, I think this is a lot of opportunity. Like you, Kirk, I wish I could go back in time and have purchased a duplex, right? I didn't even think about that. And now, with the opportunity I see, it's like, my brain's moving too. So I appreciate the insight.
Yeah. Kind of break down the house hack real quick. What is it, and what's kind of the typical strategy and plan for that you see people execute?
I'll talk about what I did.
Okay.
So almost 3 years ago to the day, my now wife and I bought a duplex in St. Paul. Up-down orientation, 2 bedrooms upstairs. They're currently rented. It's pretty common buying an investment property that you have tenants that you're going to inherit with the purchase. So we inherited tenants upstairs. They're paying $10.95, I think, per month, and I was coming in with an FHA loan. So I think I brought about $16,000 to the table. There are lots of ways to do that. You have the cash. You can use a retirement account. Anyway.
Yes.
So very minimal cash investment up front for me, and my mortgage at the time was about $1,950. So at the end of the day, I'm paying less than $900 a month. So I have to put utilities in my name. We can talk about rental licensing another day, but when you own or occupy, the rules are a little loose. Right? So they essentially treat it as your primary residence here in St. Paul. Do what you will with it. So I came in with what you call a change of ownership letter. And I just let the tenant know who I am and how to get a hold of me, and that the lease is still as it was. So I basically inherited it as if I signed it, theoretically. So kind of a trial by fire, because you never really know who that is. You didn't vet them, right? So that's part of it too, and you're getting used to living with people above you, or aside you if you buy a side by side.
Trampling around.
Yeah. And I set up bank accounts such that I can manage it like a business, right? I have a checking account where I collect rent, and I set up apartments.com to collect my rent for me. And
cool.
My tenant had a 6-year-old, and she had a trampoline in her bedroom, which was right above our bedroom, which you can imagine how that went.
Lauren, do you want me to demonstrate what that sounds like? No? Okay.
a lot of pitter patter, right? So some of the sacrifice for having a $300 mortgage, which was when eventually turned over that unit, we got new tenants in there. We updated the whole unit, countertops, trim, paint, new fixtures, all this kind of stuff, and made it nicer.
Yeah.
That's part of my strategy, right? I want to improve the building, and that unit had been kind of neglected.
Yeah.
So I wanted to set the bar a little higher.
Yeah, you're keeping your investment, up to date. You're building your investment for the future.
Yeah.
One thing I like that you said, so if you find a duplex that currently has a tenant in there and you're going to own or occupy it, we can offset some of your qualifying, like if you have a higher debt to income ratio, we can use that current lease as offset to some of your current liabilities to help you qualify for that mortgage.
Yep,
that's awesome.
Exactly.
So
and
there's a lot of
units too.
Yeah. There's again a lot of opportunity out there with that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine getting 3 rent checks your first month buying a 4-plex. Right?
So now, is that the property you still have, or do you have more?
Yeah,
Oh,
actually still live there.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and part of the reason I don't have another one is weddings are very expensive. And
I was almost going to bring up, has there been
things in life
any
are very
marriage
expensive.
things
Yeah,
that have
yeah.
gotten in the way?
And, I up front I was like, oh, there's just a couple projects I'll do, and then other projects creep in, and you start to raise the bar on yourself a little bit. And there's a fine line between over-updating your investment property and calling it a rental.
Right.
And I kind of, I have a lot of pride about
Right.
my property and the standards, and so that's sometimes translated to me spending a little more money than I thought I would, but it's still a phenomenal ROI when I think about the fact that I do have a mortgage that's only a few $100s, and I could be the one paying $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom that has amenities that I don't care about.
So now the typical house hack plan, what's the next step?
Again, house hack. do
Right.
it again with a low down payment option.
Keep the other property.
Exactly. And I think the biggest mistake I ever made was I actually did house hack prior to the duplex, kind of before I realized what I was doing. That was more of a single family setup, but had I kept that property, I would have had a 6-figure net worth alone just from that property. And
Right.
holding it from the time I originally bought it and holding it as a rental. And I have clients that want properties in the same HOA that I had that property in now because they make such phenomenal rentals. And so the only regret I have is selling that property. And so my goal is not to get 100 doors, but just to get 10 or 12,
Okay.
That's 5 or 6 properties maybe. And I want to self-manage.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in passing that off, and I want to be active.
Now, with the house hack, correct me if I'm wrong. Last I heard, you can do up to 10 conventional properties, right?
Yep. Last I checked, it was 10.
Yep.
That could have changed a little bit. I haven't looked at that in a little while, to be honest. But
So that basically means you buy the property, you're in it for a little while, then you rent out the other side. If it's a duplex or if it's a single family, you rent that out. Then that rent will help offset that payment, and then you go get the next one. And you can do that over and over and over, up to 10 before it goes to what is called, you have to get a commercial loan. Right, above 10 properties, you got to go get a commercial loan. Typically, your local banks or something like that offer those. But yeah, that is the house hack. Now, you mentioned something that surprised me a little bit, and you were saying cash flow. Maybe look at apartment buildings. Something I think you said 4 to 6 units or more. Man, I haven't seen much for apartments that seem to cash flow. So that they're out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a 5-unit listing on Chicago right now. All 3-bedroom units, all nicely rehabbed and vacant for you. Yeah.
Nice.
And, nowadays it's becoming more common to see things like a seller carry.
Okay.
It's partial contract for deed financing.
Gotcha.
The seller may carry a portion of that down payment. You bring a little cash of your own. The bank lends the rest. You take ownership of the asset, fill it with tenants that have great leases, and you get the cash flow from that. So, those units will probably rent between $1,800 and $2,200 as 3-bed, 1-bath units. They have their own laundry, some really great stuff about.
Sounds like nice
apartment
units.
buildings.
Now, what are your thoughts on, you have somebody out there, they have 3, 4 single-family properties, and then 1031ing to one building to condense. Do you think that's a good thing to do? Do you think it's a thing to do? It kind of...
Well, it boils down to my earlier question. What are your goals? But that's the trajectory I see a lot of investors take when they're, between 5 and 10 years in. They might have chained house hacks, like what was my goal, and they have 3 or 4 duplexes. Now they're ready to buy an apartment building. What you suggested is exactly what makes sense most of the time for them. Because taking that tax hit is rather inconvenient.
Yeah, right? A little bit.
And also, it kind of feels bad to sell and then you just have this cash. And money's not cheap anymore, right? So if you can leverage your cash right now in a higher ROI investment like an apartment building, that can be a much better return. But the return on the equity you have in those single-family houses, for example, has to make sense for that kind of play, right? If you have $100K equity and you're earning $1,000 a month for that asset, it's $12,000 a year, 12%.
Yep.
Might make sense to just keep that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, you bring up that. I mean, that's I'm a numbers guy, as you've probably figured out. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking at, right? And I've seen a lot of people, and again, it is goals, but when somebody's buying it purely relying on appreciation or something like that, I go, it sends the chills down my spine, right? Like, well, you can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
I know. Just talking with my
HGTV too much.
I mean, we love appreciation, but I think that you got to plan to just hold it for a long time and not change your goal. If you can buy an apartment building like that, it's got to be held in the family, and that's the way I see it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so.
It is, and real estate's always been to me a long-term investment. Yeah. Especially what you're talking about, right? House hacking. That's going to be a longer-term investment.
So I did have a couple questions. You actually got into some of them. So as far as the opportunity with conventional loans and the 5% down out there, So there were some changes, I think it was about a year ago, with the interest rates on investment properties. Can you explain that a little bit? And does that apply for owner-occupied properties?
Good question.
Yeah.
No, because you're owner occupying the property.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. And there was a change with investment lending, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, like you said.
Goes
That
by
was
too
kind of like
quick.
the LLPAs
Yes,
that we're
yes.
dealing with on the conforming loans now. That has actually been
Low and level pricing adjustments.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah, investment rates were high, right? I mean, higher than what we're seeing today.
Yep.
And so they've peeled that back. So that's
Yeah,
no
I mean,
longer.
I was seeing like 9%
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, lender to lender, the investment doing investment lending is different from lender to lender.
Yes.
So I highly recommend if you are in that, do your shopping. I mean, it's crazy how different rates are with investment products.
So if somebody is purely looking to go out and buy a investment property, not looking to live in it, not looking to house hack it, what are the down payment requirements that you're seeing?
20% down minimum.
Okay.
Yep, for conventional.
And you're saying that the loan level pricing adjustments, they're there, but not as high as they were.
Correct. Yeah, loan level pricing adjustments have always been a part
Yes.
of the puzzle. It's just they increased them on the investor
Yep.
level.
But then brought it back.
They peeled it back down. And what they did is they handed that on to second homes.
Okay.
So in second homes now took
I
a
heard
hit.
about that. Yeah.
So, and then now as we see the conforming loan level pricing adjusters.
Yes.
So one thing that I was happy about, Fannie and Freddie peeled back one of the requirements. It was a DTI requirement at first when they rolled out these LLPAs. So if anybody had a DTI over 43%, they were going to hit you hard on your pricing to get that interest rate. They realized most buyers in today's market are usually somewhat over 43%. So it was a pretty big hit across the industry with interest rates, and they decided to take that away. Thank God.
Let's see here. Just made me think of a great question I'll hit you up with after the show regarding DTI. Maybe bring it around to another show.
Yeah.
But FHA, let's talk about that. Federal Housing Agency, right? I said that correct. That 3.5% down. Can somebody do that for a duplex?
5% down.
It's 5% down.
Correct.
Okay. So
And, so in some cases you can do 3.5% down. I'll have to look into that, but 5% down in most cases.
okay.
On a duplex purchase.
Gotcha. Well, I know I got Lauren giving me the 20-minute mark in this segment, so probably got to get this wrapped up. I want to thank you again, Jeff, for coming on in. If somebody wants to check you out and learn more, what's the website they can hit you at?
UpsidePropertySales.com.
All
Or
right.
they can check me out on Instagram at the House Hacking Agent.
The House Hacking Agent. Love
I
it.
built
like
my
it.
life around this house hacking thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I like
it's-
to talk about it, and I always like to start off the conversation, with a coffee or a beer or whatever makes sense for the two of us, and just to get to know each other.
Definitely.
Awesome. So the
And
House Hacking Agent, Instagram, and UpsidePropertySales.com. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
You have a great week.
Appreciate it.
Don't forget to check us out online anytime at TwinCitiesRealEstateShow.com. There you can find all of our past shows, our weekly market updates, along with the latest and greatest searching and researching tools, and our free publications to include the Smart Home Buyer Guide and the Smart Seller Guide, along with the BRIX Report. All of these free for you. If you have any real estate questions, please feel free to give us a call, 651-303-0019. Again, 651-303-0019. Happy to help answer any of your real estate questions or assist with your real estate needs.